Bon Appetit, The Importance of Food by Maya Smith. Food is symbolic of love when words are inadequate. Dr. Alan Wolfcroft. This quote is by a psychologist who mainly focuses in the study of how to get over the loss of a loved one and how to help the person who is grieving the loss of a loved one. And what he's trying to say is that when you don't have words to say to somebody who is in mourning, you can give them food, and that symbolizes how much you love them and how much you care about them. My thesis is that although many things are important in daily life, food is one of the most important things that impacts the important portions of our lives that shape and define us. Next, I'll be showing you a video that talks about the importance of food and how it conveys love from birth.
Food is delicious. Food is pleasurable. Food can make us feel good. Eating nourishing food, making nourishing food, feeding others, celebrating with others. If that's not love, then what is? Of course, it's always a good time to talk about the power of love. From the instant we're born, the infant's experience of food is directly intertwined with being held, touched, hearing mom's soothing voice, feeling her skin, her warmth, and her love. To the as yet developed nervous system of an infant, all of these experiences are encoded in the nervous system as one event. The infant brain does not distinguish between isolated and specific sensations, meaning the infant doesn't say to itself, oh yes, this is the sound of my mother's voice, and this is the taste of the milk on my tongue, and this is the feeling of love, and this is the warmth of her skin. Again, it's all experienced as one and the same. Food is love. Love is food. Touch is food. Touch is love. And on and on. So to the adult mind, it makes perfect sense that we make the association that food is love. And as we grow older, our nervous system becomes more complex. We have a fascinating way of recreating and evolving this experience of food as love. For many of us, we've been given as children rewards whenever we've done something good or that our parents approve of. Oftentimes, that reward is food. Perhaps your grandparents, your grandmother demonstrated her love by cooking or feeding you, or perhaps it was some other relative or many of them. And maybe even the first time you went out on a date, you eat at a restaurant. It might have even been a romantic setting. Courtship and romance so often occur at the dinner table. Candles, low lighting, music, love is in the air, love is in the food. If you've ever given food to someone who's hungry and homeless, you likely had the experience of feeling a lot of love coming your way. We simply cannot escape the beautiful reality that food is love and love is food. Of course.
That video just begun to show how powerful food is in our everyday lives, starting from infant. My roadmap of what I'm going to cover today includes 4 things. First, the groundwork of taste and how it works. Next, the psychology of the brain and how it affects what foods we eat and why. Then I'm going to talk about the culture behind a person and how it affects what foods they eat. And then I'm going to talk about the background of a person and how it affects the foods that they eat. So to begin, I need to explain the groundwork of taste and how it is derived. Taste is found when a piece of food goes onto your tongue and it interacts with thousands of proteins called taste buds. These taste buds have 5 different senses: sweet, sour, bitter, salty, and umami, a Japanese word that means the taste of fat in your mouth. Combined, these 5 sensations help to connect your brain to what you're eating and how it affects you, whether you like it or not. Another thing that taste buds do is affect which foods you crave more. If you have less of a certain taste bud, then you therefore crave more of that certain kind of food. For instance, if you lack salty taste buds, then you try and make up for it by eating a lot of salty foods or craving salt on top of your foods. This is just the background to explain why certain people like certain things and why nobody has the exact same palate as another person. So, the main reason that we consume food and that it is a necessary part of our lives is in order to gain nutrients from the foods we eat and therefore live a healthy and hopefully a long life. Our body craves these nutrients, and without them it cannot operate to its full extent. But one thing that contradicts this is the brain and what the brain is craving. Our brain likes to be pleasured by certain chemical reactions, and these chemicals are not always the healthiest of foods. For instance, if my brain really likes caffeine and I tend to drink coffee every morning, but coffee does not do much for the rest of my body, and it doesn't help me to live a healthier lifestyle or to live a longer life. It just gives my brain a quick reaction that releases endorphins and happiness. Another way that the brain affects what foods you eat is by how you feel when consuming said foods. This is called the placebo effect. It's also seen in medical research when they're testing a new drug. They give half of the patients the real drug and the other half a fake drug to see if the drugs are really affecting how the person and their body, or if it's just your brain telling you that the drugs are working. This can be seen in food because if you feel happy or surrounded by people you love and genuinely feel good while eating a food, then your brain tells your body to fully metabolize it and you get every nutrient possible out of it, even if it's something unhealthy like cake. But if you eat said cake and feel very guilty and feel bad about yourself, then your body doesn't react as well and you don't fully metabolize it, and it does just what you think it will do, which is negatively affect your body. So, how you feel affects how your body takes the food and how it affects you in your body. It's not just the food itself, but it's also your brain telling you how to metabolize it and how much to metabolize. Next, I have a little brain teaser. Now, these are two circles. Now, you have to guess which black circle is larger, this one or this one. Actually, both circles are the same size. This is your brain tricking you. When you eat a small amount of food on a small plate, your brain tells your stomach, hey, I'm full, and you stop eating and you don't feel as full, or you feel full and satisfied. But if you eat off of a large plate, a small amount of food, then your brain tells you, hey, that wasn't enough, I need more. Even when your stomach's telling you, wait, I had enough, and you continue to eat. This shows the brain's effect over your body and what you think is happening. By eating off of smaller plates, you can actually reduce the amount of food you eat. And this is shown through many tests and trials by psychologists. Another way that your brain impacts how much food you eat is by the color of the plate. If the food matches the color of the plate, then you will eat more of it. But if it's contrasting colors, then you'll actually eat less because your brain thinks that you're eating more food. Next, I'll be talking about the culture of a person and how it affects what foods they enjoy and why they enjoy them. Firstly, I need to define culture and how I'm using it in my presentation. Culture is a defined set of standards that are learned and not genetic. These things, there are many parts of culture. And culture affects every aspect of life and how people live it. And there are also many things that separate cultures and why everyone acts different around the world. As seen in this picture, there are many facets of culture, including language, food, dress, and any other aspect you can think of that is something that is learned and not genetic. This culture affects what foods you eat because it is something that is learned, and what foods people around you eat are what you are probably going to eat. Another way that culture affects what foods you eat is because if you're from a certain culture and you celebrate certain holidays or at special times you eat a certain dish, then that dish has special meaning to you and it makes you feel a certain way and might remind you of home. Food is one of the most powerful things that can bring a person back home even when they're thousands of miles away. Though some might say that you can never truly recreate a dish in a different place because you don't have access to the exact same ingredients and the exact same water source and the exact same spices, I disagree. I feel that food is more than just a set of ingredients. It is something that makes you feel a certain way and reminds you of a certain person or place or group of people, even when they're not with you. Eating a dish that reminds you of home can still be just as powerful and just as special, even if it is not made with the same ingredients. Another way that culture affects what foods you eat, there are many other ways that culture affects what foods you eat. Here is a bunch of pictures taken by the photographer Peter Menzel and his book Hungry World, What the World Eats. He went around the world and took pictures of a week of food of various cultures all over the world. There are many different things that separate what these cultures eat and why they eat them. First of all, I'm going to talk about the picture of the people from Chad. Chad is a country in Africa, and the main thing that affects what foods they eat is the economy and also the climate of the area. Due to the fact that Chad is in Africa and is in a very dry area, they do not have access to a lot of varieties of foods that don't grow there. Additionally, the people in Chad have low economic standards, and therefore they cannot afford a very diverse amount of foods. They eat what is necessary to survive, but they also recreate it in different ways in order to make it special and to keep the mouth interested. Next, I'll be talking about Japan. Japan's food culture is mainly influenced by its geography and its natural resources. The largest natural resource in the country of Japan is the fact that it is an island and therefore it has direct access to the ocean. This results in a majority of the food being coming from the ocean or having been shipped from the ocean. Next, I'll be talking about Ecuador. Ecuador is a South American country that has low economic standards. The food that they consume is locally available and is very basic. But as you can tell from the picture, food is one of the main unifying factors in this culture. The people are smiling and look very happy together, even though some would say that they have meager amounts of food. It's not just what they're eating that makes them happy, it's the fact that it brings their whole family together and eating is a time of happiness and enjoyment in life. Finally, we have the picture of the United States. This picture shows a lot of foods that are pre-processed and or pre-made. This shows that the main thing that affects the culture of food in America is time and how quickly we can consume a food or how quickly it is to make it and keep going. Americans do not, from this picture, it is easy to see that Americans do not mainly place that much importance or necessity in the foods that they consume and the healthiness of the foods that they consume. As I said before, the main point of eating food is in order to live a healthy life and to get all of the nutrients necessary to keep your body healthy. Another thing that affects food is the background of a person and where they came from or what they're comfortable with. The background of a person is where they come, what country they come from, or what ethnicity they mostly identify as. The background of a person can very strongly affect what foods they eat and what they feel comfortable eating. One psychological thing that can affect, also has to do with background of a person, is the fact that if somebody that a person knows is eating a certain kind of food, then that person will therefore feel a lot more comfortable eating that food and will be more likely to try it out than if they didn't know anybody eating that kind of food. This is also seen from what a mother eats when they're pregnant tends to be what the child they're carrying also craves. It's a learned behavior that influences their everyday life. As you can see from all of these pictures, there are many different backgrounds and different ethnicities and places that people come from. Even though the differences seem vast, there are always common strains between the backgrounds of a person and another background of somebody else. Another thing that food can do is help introduce somebody to a different background or culture that they weren't aware of by eating a certain dish from that culture or meeting somebody and then preparing a dish for them that's from that culture. This opens the door to a conversation about culture and background and the things that make everybody different, but also can help bring everybody back together. This shows the many different aspects of a culture and how it can affect the background of a person and how they feel and what they feel comfortable with. Part of our big boards was to do an outreach project. For mine, I decided to do a cultural awareness potluck. At this potluck, I invited as many people from as many different backgrounds and cultures that I could. I asked them to bring a dish that represents their background or their culture or heritage and bring it in, and we can all share it and have a discussion about it. There were foods from all over the world, including Southern America, Europe, the Middle East, and also South America. All of these people with very different backgrounds came together in order to enjoy food and to indulge one another in what their different backgrounds represent and how it's important to them. As you can see in the picture, making your own dish from your own culture can bring a lot of pride to a person and make them feel more comfortable and content with their background. Another thing that this did was bring people together and have a conversation about our backgrounds and how we got to where we are. One particularly interesting conversation we had was with a girl from Jordan who had recently emigrated to America. She told us her story and how it was kind of hard to assimilate into American culture and to fit in with the other kids, but Seaholm was becoming her home, and now she's starting to feel more comfortable. This powerful story was all started because of food, and because of its power and its pervasiveness in every aspect of life. People came together and we learned from each other, simply over one dish. Thank you for listening. Any questions?